Hi, everybody. I am Brian Jones, the host of Sideline Shenanigans. I have the legendary, the amazing Coach John Hart. Coach, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, but I don't know if I qualify for any one of those. But I'm happy to be on here and supporting high school football.
All right, all right. Where was your first coaching job at?
Well, it's good you didn't ask how old. I appreciate that. I started as a head coach when I was 22 years old at Edwards County High School in Albion, Illinois.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. How long ago was that?
It was 40 years ago. So I just
Oh, okay.
celebrated our 40th season as a head coach, and very grateful. 7 different jobs, according to my wife. Okay, and we've been married coming up on 41 years. Uh,
Mm.
this is our last move, so I took that as a pretty good warning. Our 9th year, we're coming up on our 10th year, and second longest tenure in my career. It was 11 years at Mount Carmel in Southern Illinois for 11. So we're excited.
Okay. How would you define your coaching philosophy in one sentence?
Surround yourself with great people. You know, um, I coach Casey Poppenfuss is our head track coach and my defense coordinator, one of the best coaches I've ever met in my life. But he started a Bible study here, and we meet on Wednesdays, and you kind of talk about a lot about faith and the
Mm.
Bible, and you start realizing that you know most things that you have valuable in your life you kind of learned through the Bible. So. Or at least through me. So that's where I kind of base things from. Uh, I know everybody says family and faith and
Mhm.
community and culture. We really try to live it here. And last year was one of those teams that did a incredible job of just having faith in each other in our program.
Absolutely, absolutely. How do you handle discipline while still connecting with players?
Well, I think it's like parenting. Um, I didn't have to scold my kids. I don't know if I. So we have 4 children, all grown, all coaching, teaching, uh, and I don't know that we ever had to scream or curse at them or kick them or whip them. Uh, you know, but we did spend a lot of time with them, and they believed in us. We believed in them, and again, kind of like a lot of things in life, if you want to do it for a long time, I think the key is to kind of live who you are. And I love our kids. I don't think I've had any coaching staff or any kid that's played for us that we didn't care about. And some have greater talents, and those are exciting. Every once in a while in a lifetime, you get a Sheldon Day or a Paul McIntosh or Ricky Kreider, some of the
Mm.
great players and I've had many more. But those guys are kind of landmark places or players, and they change your life as much as you change theirs.
What's the toughest decision you've ever had to make as a coach?
It probably when you leave. I think people think, and they get this confused, and it won't be popular or trending or anything else. But when you professionally decide to move someplace, it's a lot different than like our college portal we have, or now the high
Mm.
school trying to mimic a really bad uh, process. We took college football and college sports have realized that this is probably the worst possible thing they could do, and high schools now decided that since we had such a good thing, we'd try to screw it up and do something as bad as what colleges are doing.
Mhm.
Um, I think playing for your community is huge. And we have transfers. We have kids move in. We don't have. I can't think of local kids who have jumped over, during their high school careers and stuff. I'm sure we've had, but I think everybody should play with their grade school and middle school when applicable. Now, parents move, man, it just happens, and communities change, and when you move, and I think it's a great thing. But going back to answer your question, when I left Edwards County, those kids believed in what we did and how we changed the program and the community and everything else. And when I left, there was a lot of pain there, to be honest. And then when you're at Mount Carmel for 11 years and you really kind of raise your kids there and stuff, it becomes even more difficult because it's now your family. Then when we left Wrights, we did monumental things, and it was incredible. And my kids graduated high school there, and then my youngest son graduated from Warren Central. And those kids, the needs are all kind of different and stuff, but it's just like family. Your oldest son and your youngest son might you love them the same, and they're different. And they got different qualities and personalities and everything else, but it doesn't change how much you care about them.
What's the most overlooked part of successful coaching?
Probably who you hire. I told you about Coach Pop and Foose, but my two of my boys were assistants and coordinators for me, and now they're head coaches. Last year's offensive coordinator is a head coach. The head coach at Decatur Central, who won a state championship last year, coached with me. Dan Schwanenkamp, who came from Ben Davis, had won a couple state championships, comes over here as an assistant and helps us. And I think some head coaches have to make final decisions, but I think the biggest mistake maybe head coaches make, or at least I try not to. How's that? I don't know. Others may have different feelings, but I really don't want our guys thinking they work for me. I think we work together. I think we work. Now, again, I have to make final decisions. That's part of my job as a head coach, but nobody works for me. I want them independently coaching. I want them using their personalities. And I think that is really, really important. But man, I've seen great teams have transition in coaching and not replace great coaches, and then they fall off. And so that's our challenge, and with education in flux like it is right now, and especially in Indiana where they're trying to de-emphasize public education, then you really have more challenges.
How do you define a coachable kid?
I think they're all coachable, and I know that's a simple, easy way out. But that I was a tough kid, and I came from a tough family, and I probably had more excuses than I had talent. But I needed somebody to understand me and care about me, and I think that the tough kids, and there are kids that are more challenging than others. Pete Niger is playing for University of Louisville right now. He was probably the easiest kid to ever coach that I've coached. Ricky Kreider, who's been on my staff since college, was an incredible football player. I didn't have to coach him a whole bunch. I didn't have to spend a lot of time coaching my boys because they were really good. First Mr. Football I ever coached, Paul McIntosh. I didn't have to coach him a lot, but they wanted to be coached, and I think that's the kind of the term is: do you want to be coached, or are you happy with mediocrity or where you are? And when I say mediocrity, you can have a really talented kid who's only giving about 50% of his value of athletically and teamwork and effort, and the ones that that really get the most out of themselves are the ones who are never satisfied. They want to be coached.
What role do captains play in your program?
I'll be honest, we don't use them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Coach Steve Tutz. He was a great high school coach here in the state of Indiana. I think he's at Marion now. Uh, when I got to Warren, I think they had commanders or something. They had like 10 guys. And I used that for a while. And Tutz had some great ideas. And then I just kind of started evolving, or we started evolving to, hey, let's 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 make seniors leaders. Let's make certain position leaders, like quarterbacks. Um, so we've kind of pushed that narrative out about what it takes to be a leader, as opposed to separating by calling captains uh, who they as people that have to be different. Um, I don't blame other people for having captains. It's just been something we've kind of evolved to, where we're trying to develop team leaders.
Absolutely. What's your biggest goal for the team beyond wins and losses?
I'm sorry. You hear that bell? That means that some of us coaches actually teach. Uh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's my prep period. What was your question?
um, what's your biggest goal for the team beyond wins and losses?
And again, I won't be the first coach to say this, so I don't want to throw out too many cliches, but the journey has always been better than the destination. And if you think about it, like when the first time we took our family to Disney World, almost all of our stories were about before, after, the at nighttime, so it was the journey. And then you get to Disney World and you go like, that's Mickey Mouse. That's a roller coaster. The journey of being together and stuff is what we remembered for a lifetime. We still talk about, and I feel that way with a football team. I've heard Nick Saban say this, and other great coaches, and I believe in it. Is that I won't be defined by a loss or a win. And as far as people can try to define me as that, but I won't. I won't define our teams as that. We've had some great teams, and we were supposedly a school that was never going to win a sectional or win a state championship, and we did. We went 40 years in between a regional championship, let alone a semifinal and a state championship.
Mhm.
But never did I didn't love this team more than I did those teams that had great attempts and did everything we asked to compete, just because we came up a point short. Uh, so I think understanding that journey is probably the biggest thing.
Okay, coach. What's your message to freshmen just starting out at Brownsburg football?
Believe in the process. Uh, yeah, every year we start off and we're still growing. I know high school football maybe it's not growing in all places, uh, but here it is. So we'll have 70 kids, 80 kids, and I think there's 90 freshmen signed up for next year. Uh, Now, how many of those kids stick with it is usually somewhere in that 30 to 40 range. Uh, but when kids that especially the ones who have talent and stuff, they'll always come in and they always use this word, Coach, I've lost my passion. And really is what they've lost is their direction or their competitiveness. And I tell with the conversations we have is like last year we had a really good football player. His name's Justin Ham. He almost quit after his freshman year, and and then his sophomore year he played on our C team. His junior year he started. And his senior year he was a terrific player. If he doesn't get injured, he's probably all state. He even got it offered a Division One walk on, but when he didn't have direction, whenever he didn't want to compete, that was the easy way out was to quit. And so we tell kids, man, go through your sophomore year, play on the C team if you have to, and then by the time we get done with you in the weight room, and man, Brian Neese is probably one of the great weight room coaches. in the country. Ohio University was in, and Coach is kind of heard Coach Neese talking, and he goes, "That's why your kids get ready for college right there." And man, we're tough on them. The process isn't easy here. I can tell you that.
How do you integrate new players into the program?
Um, we don't have a whole bunch of new players come in other than when they come in as freshmen. It's hard to compete right away, to be honest. And like I said, we're not huge into transferring. We've had some over the years and some great ones. I've been Easters that transferred here from across town and then went on to Kansas, and Preston Terrell transferred in here from Columbus and went to Purdue. But they usually transfer in really young. It's not like, an IMG where they're waiting to kids get Division I offers and then going like, hey, let's build a super team. That's I don't think that's what's best for high school football, and it's definitely not what I kind of advocate.
All right, now let's get into your schedule. Which game on the schedule feels like the biggest?
Well, that's a great question because we have so many built-in rivalries, and we're playing a top 10 team in the country in week one. So that will be a huge challenge for us within itself. Then you play Cathedral, and Cathedral and us have kind of grown together as teams that have been very, very successful. Then Avon's our biggest rivalry, so then we go right into Avon, and HSE's had a success against us. Westfield, we played twice in the regular season, once, the second one being for a state championship. So there's so many big games involved there. It's Spalding will be the biggest because it's the first for us.
Mm. What's your mindset heading into sectionals?
We kind of do a reset, and again, we were accused of not having success in the playoffs, and then we started winning sectionals. Then they started saying, "Oh, they can only win a sectional; they can't win a regional." It's kind of like one of those things. But we tried to do a reset. So we in 6A in Indiana, you get a week off between regular season and the playoffs, and we take a couple days off and reset our buttons. We give them the weekend, a couple days, then we come back for 3 days and work on everything we think we need to get ready, from situations to everything, and then go back into game week the second week. And it's been successful for us where we've not won every sectional that we've been in. I think we've won 4 maybe, just off the top of my head, but we've been very successful in week 1, of the playoffs, and throughout the years.
Okay. What's the toughest road environment? I know you guys got like Cathedral, big school, Coach Peoples, Cedar Grove.
Yeah.
Like you said, Avon. What's the toughest one to go into?
It's a great question. HSE and Fishers, man, they have huge crowds. Westfield does too. There's some. All those are very challenging. Now, Cathedral doesn't have a home site, so we've that site that we played at Marion. It throws you a little bit off, so that's a tough situation. Center Grove and I believe if I was voting on 2 environments that are very escalated, those two are pretty high. Benton Davis is a hard place to play too.
So the funny thing about Ben Davis, the offensive coordinator, Tyler Campbell, you know him? He's from my hometown.
Yeah. See, you got a lot of people from your hometown, man.
Yeah, I have I have Isaac Merskevich from Delphi. He's from my hometown. So yeah. I also have Josh Smith, who played at Navy, coming on the podcast sometime soon. Um, which team do you think pushes your team the hardest every single year? Like it's year after year. Somebody's like, it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
what team?
I'll be honest. I think if I was to name, we have a Vince Lombardi Trophy for the NFL. Uh, I think I'd, if I was in charge of naming the state playoffs, I'd name it
Mhm.
Eric Moore, the Eric Moore Trophy. I just he's a good friend of mine, so I'm a little bit biased, but I just think the dude is the epitome of everything about high school football. Uh, he's tough. He's demanding. He cares about his kids. His kids care about him, or they seem to. And the community's bought in, and he took the program from dirt and made it and built it himself with his own hands. Um, so I'd probably throw the Center Grove as the yearly best football team since I've been in Indiana.
Yeah. At least what I've seen is always like a top 10
Mhm.
top top 10 team in the country always.
Yep.
Even in Indiana.
Yep.
Coach, how do you play in your non-conference games?
Well, Cathedral's won, and they're a great rival for us, and I think we're good for each other because we have a lot of similarities, and as far as our players and stuff, we're a very high. We're a public school, but a very high academic school. Uh, Not bragging, but I think it's 7 years in a row we're the number one academic school in the state. Uh, that was a shameless plug, wasn't it? But playing those guys, is fun, and somebody I think we enjoy each other and have a lot of respect for each other. But
Mhm.
really, the the playing a Spalding every once in a while, uh, I think gives our state a lot of recognition. I remember playing St. X a few years ago, and we were on ESPN, and the amount of people who still remember that game because of the volume and how it turned out and winning that playoff game was really fun.
Was it you guys who played IMG, or who was that? Was that
That
somebody
was
else?
that was Ben Davis that played
Ben
at.
Davis. That's why it was either Brownsburg or Ben Davis. Couldn't remember which one. What's the most memorable game you've ever coached at Brownsburg?
Um, I would probably say, man, it's tough. There's probably 100 I could name, but because it was most recent, was probably the Ben Davis game. We were down 28 points at halftime, and in the year before, we were up 17 going into the fourth quarter and lost. So to be down 28, I've never been down or ahead by 28 and won. So I've never been in that game. So that was very memorable, but almost as memorable, or maybe just as memorable, was the negative side of it. I've never been down 17 in the fourth quarter and beat or won. So in all my years of coaching, so as great as this year's was, last year's was equally as hurting and tough.
And the next year's going to be even better, right?
They're not going to go away, and I hope we don't go away either. So
No,
uh,
sir.
we're gonna look forward to. And again, I think we have one of the best conferences in the country if you add up all the Division I kids. And uh, I know our conference has only won the state championship once in 6A or big school football. Uh, but I think from top to bottom is where our number 8 is better than anybody else's number 8. Our 7, our 6, our 5, and I argue our 1. Any given year.
Okay. What inspired you to become a football coach?
My head football coach from high school, I think, like most guys sitting in here, was a huge impact. Um, and I came from a family that didn't have much, and there were seven of us, and uh, you either went to military or school, and I just always thought I was a football coach, and um, to get opportunities as young as I was and stuff was not real normal, but uh, but I love it. It's my passion. I joke with my two boys. You know I always joked about that I couldn't do anything else, and I might have starved because I can't fix things, and I'm not very good at having a vision outside of football and stuff. Um, and I and they're much the same way.
What do you remember most about your own playing days?
Um, Gosh, that's a great question. I know that of all the things I did through high school, the things that I ever talk about were football. And I was just an average player on a above average team at a community that loved football. Uh, but I had a passion for it, and I loved it. Any one single moment, I I know I dislocated my thumb right before the start of my senior year, and the first like two or three ball games I wasn't allowed to play in, uh, and that I kind of see that with our football players when a senior gets hurt, it kind of takes a chunk out of my heart a little bit.
Yeah. How did your own playing experience shape your coaching philosophy?
I don't know. It's probably more the people. The both my head coach and the defensive coordinator, Tim Nolan. Verlin Myers was my head coach, and Tim Nolan was the defensive coordinator when I was in high school. They both ended up in the Hall of Fame. So kind of tells you what kind of people that I got coached by. And then you aspire to have a lot of the traits they have. Uh, I remember Coach Nolan. Uh, After I'd won the state championship, maybe at Warren Central, I was asked to speak over in Illinois, and he's on the committee. And then he introduces me to everybody. And he goes, "How do you like this? This guy could win all these ball games, and I couldn't teach him how to get in a 3-point stance." So, like I said, I was an average player, and it's the reason why I tell kids lots of times they're coached by great players who that's their life was football and stuff. Well, my life was football, but it wasn't because of talent.
Hmm. How do you balance coaching with family life?
You know, and again, I'll snag another, cliche, but you know, quality over quantity. I talked to a young coach a few years ago, and he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna have to get out because of family," and and I said, "Hey, so you're gonna give up TV? You're gonna give up, you know, any other social activities and stuff like that?" And he goes like, "Well, no," and I go, "Well, instead of watching TV while you're playing with your kid, flip your TV off and play with your kid." Take them out in the backyard, and you'll find out there's only so much time you're going to spend with them, no matter what. Uh, and I think people get confused about that, like they got to be around them all the time for them uh, to love and care about you and have that great relationship. Because uh, other, other than my wife, the four best people in my life are easily my four kids. So, but you know, I remember they would come down, and I'd have football practice, and they'd bring their toys, and they'd be playing in this long jump pit, thinking it was a sandbox. But they thought they were with their dad, uh, and water times I'd come over and joke with them, and the players would, so we all became kind of family, and it's pretty easy when you're getting raised by, 60, 100, 120 people as opposed to just two.
Yeah. I never had a father coach. My dad was a physician's assistant, but he would always tell me, "Hey, I would coach if work wasn't busy.
Yep.
Because it takes a lot of time to be a physician's assistant, a lot of work, a lot of school, and I understood.
Yep.
What's something your players don't know about you?
Something my players don't know about me. That is a great question. Maybe I I play with. I used to play with my kids a lot, and now our kids' a lot. And usually, I always imitate Batman. So maybe that's it. So
Are you willing to do the Batman impression?
I don't have the mask and stuff, so I don't know if it's if it works out. So, but I don't know. I don't know if our kids understand the depth of struggles that my family had, growing up and stuff. They kind of see the John Hart, the adult and the professional part of it. We do some really I don't know. Maybe a lot of people do it now. I don't know, but we really try to get our kids intertwined with our families. So our linebackers coach, I brought him up, Coach Schwanenkamp. Weekly they have a dinner all the way through season. Well, he usually has his kids with him, or they're at his house. So all his linebackers get to see a great dad figure. They get to see what a family looks like. Mm-hmm. My wife and I have the seniors over every year for a senior party. So I think that living like a family as opposed to talking family is pretty important.
What's a piece of advice you still carry with you every season?
What advice from when I played?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a particular thing, but I think toughness, and I love the tough love. I love it when it's on the other side of it. My assistant coaches if we're more like brothers than father sons, like maybe some head coaches are, and it's so that kind of that brother toughness, like me and my brothers used to fight like cats and dogs, but when we went out somewhere else, if you fought one heart, you were going to fight all six boys. You're going to fight all six of us, and people kind of knew that we were a family, and I think I felt that way when I played at Newton High School. We felt like we were a family, and we fought a lot amongst us, but when we stepped on the field, we were together.
Coach, how should young athletes handle adversity?
Boy, that's a great question. I think by having vision, and I do think it's the single biggest challenge for today's kids, because they're told by so many different venues, take the easy way out, take the easy way out, take a handout, and it's not true, but so there's a lot of fake stuff out there, especially on, the internet and social media, being told, that you got to fight through something and you got to fight for something, and there's no guarantees. And I think if we allow football and athletics to be what it's supposed to be, instead of always an avenue to go do something else, then I think there's still a huge value, a huge need that will help kids be successful. I remember a study long time ago, and I've seen it many times since then, but it was by Fortune 500. And they listed the things that were most important for the best employees. And they were all things that you get by competing. And it was how to work as a team member, how to be a leader, how to go through tough times, and all these things. And they said at the time, those are what you're taught in athletics. Yeah, it's not to find the easy way out and to quit or to go somewhere else, or it's to compete, and I think it's still true today.
What do you say to players who may never start but always show up?
You know, we have a lot of them. So there's 30 plus seniors, and if you count talented juniors and sophomores that are competing, they're not going to all get on the field, uh, but we try to make them feel important in a lot of different aspects, and we tell them they're leaders, and leaders don't quit. Leaders fight, and if they really believe in leadership, uh, then that's a part of it. We do something every Thursday, and sometimes it can come off as corny or whatever else. But boy, when you're in the spotlight of doing it, uh, it's a little bit different. You can tell by the quiver of voices. But they have to talk about what it means to be a bulldog. Who was the biggest impact in your life, and what coach impacted you the most in life when you were in youth football. And then they have to answer all these questions. The great leaders, they rehearse it. You can tell they're prepared to get through the whole process. Some of the other kids, probably think it's just a ritual that they got to get through. But 90% of them, and it's really important to them.
If Brownsburg had a mascot just for football, what would it be called?
I mean, I love bulldogs. I like being dog tough, so I think we're dogs, man. I think we're just, uh, you know, we're not we're not Georgia Bulldogs, with the
Right.
W in there. We're just DOGS, man. We try to be dogs, and man, dogs can fight, and I think that's who we are.
Okay, Coach. My final question for you today is: who would play you in a movie about your coaching career?
Well, darn, it'd have to be somebody good looking, and I said this once before, and people made fun of me because he's such a big star. But you know, Matthew McConaughey is McConaughey. Is that how you say his name?
McConaughey.
Thank you very much. But he did "We Are Marshall," and I just thought he was so impactful when he kind of did that, and I love him as an actor. So if I got to pick somebody, it'd be him. I'm not so sure anybody else. I would say that we have much in common, but and he's a huge football fan. I think that those kind of things uh, people would probably say closer to Will Ferrell.
All right, Coach. I want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. I feel like I've been in the presence of Indiana high school football legend. I'm Brian Jones. He's Coach John Hart. Thank you for listening.
They
Before we wrap up today's episode, I just want to take a moment and talk about some things that really matter to us here at Sideline Shenanigans. First off, we're proud to announce our partnership with Hope Springs, a domestic violence shelter located in my hometown of Attica, Indiana. Hope Springs provides safety, support, and a fresh start for individuals and families escaping domestic violence. The work they do every day is truly life-changing, offering shelter, counseling, and hope when it's needed most. If you want to learn more about Hope Springs, find ways to help, or simply show support, you can reach out to them on Facebook or call their number at 765-764-5212. If you need help, please call 765-764-5212. Whether that means donating, volunteering, or spreading awareness, every bit helps builds a stronger, safer community. We believe using our platform not just to talk about football, but shine a light on the issues that affect our players, coaches, families, and communities every day. Also, here's a quick reminder. We are now posting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure you're subscribed and following us so you never miss a show. If you want to support what we're doing and rep the podcast, well, check out our merch store. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, and hats available now at Sideline Shenanigans.printify.me. It's an easy way to show your support and be part of the Shenanigans family. Be sure to follow us on social medias as well. You can find us on Instagram at Sideline Shenanigans _, on Twitter at Sideline Shenanigans, and on Facebook at Sideline Shenanigans. We love connecting with you there, sharing updates, and building this amazing community. And before we sign off, a big shout out to our friends over at Indiana Hoosier Gridiron on Facebook. They're doing a fantastic work supporting Indiana high school football. Definitely check them out and show some love. Finally, we want to be crystal clear about something very important. Sideline Shenanigans does not condone domestic violence of any kind. We stand with survivors, and we believe it's essential to create safe spaces where healing and support can happen. Along with that, we want to remind everyone, mental health matters. No matter who you are, whether you're a coach, player, or just someone navigating the ups and downs of life, it's okay to not be okay. Asking for help takes strength. And you're never alone. There are people willing to listen to you and support you, including all of us here at Sideline Shenanigans. Thank you so much for being part of the journey with us. Your support means everything. We'll see you back here next time.